Learning basic food preservation techniques like fermenting can be incredibly valuable during tough times, as it provides a reliable way to extend the shelf life of fresh ingredients without relying on the refrigeration or other modern conveniences. Fermentation not only preserves food but also enhances its nutritional value by promoting the growth of beneficial bacteria, which can boost your gut health. In times of food scarcity, economic hardship, or limited access to fresh produce, knowing how to ferment vegetables, dairy, or grains ensures a steady supply of nutritious homemade food. This skill can sustain you in uncertain times. So today I'm going to show you how to make homemade sauerkraut. It's a wonderful probiotic-rich side dish. So for the classical sauerkraut, we can use any type of cabbage, green or red, as long as it's fresh. If it's been sitting for a while, it may be too dry for fermenting because we want the cabbage to produce its own juices, which will be the base of our brine. We prepare our jars by washing them in hot soapy water. You do not need to sterilize your jars when doing a raw ferment. I keep saying this in every one of my videos. You don't need to sterilize because we're putting raw things in it and we're not boiling anything in there. So to start, we need just two simple ingredients, like I said, cabbage and salt. But there's more to it than meets the eye. The salt is key here. It must be iodine-free and free from any anti-caking agents. So regular table salt is a no-go. What we want is something like pickling salt, pink Himalayan salt, Redmond's real salt, sea salt, or my personal favorite for today is Celtic salt, which is rich in minerals. Now let's make our delicious sauerkraut. First, we give the cabbage a rinse and remove the outer wilted or damaged leaves. Slice it in half, and then we quarter it to remove the core from each piece. Now, just make sure you save some of the outer leaves that are in good condition for later because we're going to top the jars with them. So just put them on the side and we're going to use them at the end. Then we thinly slice our cabbage with a knife, or we shred it using a mandolin or a food processor, whatever you have handy. I love this mandolin here. You can get it on Amazon. I'll leave a link down below if you want to check it out. I've had it for many years and it's still very sharp, so be careful with it. So even though this seems like a very tedious process, it's actually really quick. It takes me about 10 minutes to do it. It's going to be a lot of cabbage, but it will go down by half after it releases some of its liquid. So just keep on going. You can use your largest bowl, and when you're done, we're going to move on to the next step. Now the rest of the pieces, which you cannot shred with a mandolin, basically I just cut by hand with a knife, or I just save it on the side for a soup that I'm actually making right now. So I'm just putting that in the soup, and we're gonna have some nice, delicious dinner for tonight. And of course, I always taste my cabbage. I just love raw cabbage. I love sauerkraut. It's always nice and crunchy. And of course, these are saved for my soup later on. And now I'm adding the salt to the bowl of shredded cabbage. So what I'm doing here is adding 1 tablespoon, a good sized tablespoon of salt to 1 kilo of cabbage, or basically 1 tablespoon of salt to 2 pounds of cabbage. We sprinkle that on top, and then we start massaging it with our hands. You don't have to go crazy about it, just massage it really well. So we just give it a good massage for a few minutes. I'm just doing it for 1 or 2 minutes, and I'm flipping it on all sides so that the salt gets in there everywhere. And that will help with the release of the liquids from the cabbage itself. That's going to be our brine. So now I would just like to go over the jar debate when it comes to jarring or canning ferments. You can use any type of glass jar with a lid that would provide a proper seal. I've been repurposing my store-bought jars without any issue for a long time. As long as the lids are in perfect condition, they're not rusty, you don't need to sterilize the jars. Just wash them really well, and since we're doing a raw ferment anyway, that's all you need to do. But they do need to be thoroughly washed with hot soapy water. Now I'm just adding here just a little bit of dry dill. You don't have to add anything to this sauerkraut. It's really delicious on its own, and we actually prefer it like that. We just like it plain, but I'm showing you how you can do it with herbs. I'm letting it rest here for about 30 minutes, just like doing kimchi, and then I'm flipping it all over again, giving it a light massage if you like, and just put a timer on, do your thing in the kitchen, go grab a cup of coffee or tea, and then come back in half an hour and flip it over again. So I'm just showing you how easy it is to put a sauerkraut together. It's basically shredding, adding some salt, flipping it here and there, and it's doing its own thing. It's releasing its own juices, and that's going to be a nice, delicious brine. We let it rest, and then we're going to jar it all up. So now this is about an hour and a half, 2 hours later, and you can see all of that juice at the bottom of the bowl. That's all just natural juices from the cabbage. I have not added one drop of water, so you can tell that this is going to be one flavorful sauerkraut. It's nothing like the store-bought. Once you make your own, you just cannot eat and enjoy the store-bought. I'm sorry, I don't know what they put in it, vinegar, I don't know what it is, but it's not like homemade sauerkraut. You gotta try this. You can also use a kraut pounder or a masher, but if you don't have that, just simply use your washed hands. I find it more effective anyway with my hands, so I prefer it this way. For more fermenting ideas, you can check out my fermenting playlist. I'll leave a link down below and in the upper right corner. So now we're ready to pack the cabbage tightly into clean glass jars.
And now there is none.
So you can use a wooden packer, a spoon, or your fingers or fist to press the cabbage down firmly. The goal here is to eliminate as many air bubbles as possible and to ensure the cabbage will be submerged underneath the brine. So just make sure that you leave about 1 inch of a head space so that you have enough room for the brine to cover the cabbage, or for your glass weights or whatever thing you have to press down on the cabbage. And I'm just moving on with the next empty jars. I'm filling them up. I had here 1 large cabbage and 1 medium-sized cabbage, so I have about 3 jars here that some are new, some are repurposed, like I said, and it works just fine. Make sure you fill them up and pack it tightly so that they will stay nice and submerged in the liquid. You can see that I left a little bit of a head space, and I have a lot of brine. I have a lot of liquid left from the cabbage that we massaged and we let it soak in the salt. So I will just add here just small little pieces of cabbage on top of the rest of the cabbage in the jars that I have, pressing it down. Like I said, you can use a packer or whatever tool you have. I'm just using my fingers. You can use your fist if you have a wider mouthed jar, but just make sure you press it down really well. And then I'm just gonna add one of these glass weights on top. I'll leave a link down in the description below, or if you don't have that, you don't have to go buy one. You can just use a big cabbage leaf and just stack it on top. And you can even layer it. You can put 2 leaves, but it has to be really large enough to cover the small little pieces of sauerkraut. So make sure that it covers the entire surface, and just press it down, tuck it in, whatever you want. Just make sure it's all in and you press it down, okay, so that it stays nice and low, because we're gonna cover that with the brine. So now we just top it all up with the brine that we have left, so with the cabbage juices, and make sure that everything is submerged, including the large leaf that we used as a topper. And then I'm just pressing down, make sure that everything is in, and I'm picking up any small little pieces of shredded cabbage so that they will not be floating on top. You don't want anything to float or come into contact with oxygen because that will cause the jar to get moldy. So I'm just checking there's enough headspace. I think I'm going to remove a little bit more liquid from here because it's a little over the top. And either way, I'm going to place these on a tray or on top of a plate so that they will not leak all over. Make sure you wipe the jars clean so that they're nice and dry, and then we're going to put the lids on. We're not going to open the jars until the next day, so we're going to start burping them once or twice a day to make sure that the building gases are going to be released, which is part of the normal fermentation process. I'm using here a tray, and because it's in front of the window, it needs to be in a shaded place, like away from direct sunlight. So I'm just gonna cover them up with a kitchen towel, but you can just put them somewhere away from the window. You will notice that within the next few days, once you burp them, you just open the jar a little bit to make sure that the gases are coming out. You don't have to open it wide and do anything with it. And then you'll notice that in the next few days, these jars are gonna get a cloudy liquid like this one here. So this is, I think, a few days later. And then as I check my jars, I want to make sure that there's enough brine, that everything stays under the liquid. I would like to add a little bit more to this one so that it's not exposed to air, right? It's not bubbling anymore. It's been about 4 days. So it's already smelling a little sour, which means that it's doing its thing. I have here water with salt, and I just boiled it for a minute. So I have 1 cup of salt with 1 teaspoon, 1 cup of water with 1 teaspoon of salt. And after it cooled down a little bit, I'm just adding to the top of the jar here. And I want to make sure that I pick up any of the small little pieces that have been floating around when I, press down on the cabbage. I remove everything that comes in contact with oxygen, and then that's pretty much it. I can just close it right up, put the lid on, and put it away in the cellar, in a cool, dark place, in your refrigerator if you don't have a cooler place. And then you can enjoy it in a few weeks. I like it a little bit more sour and tangy, so I don't like it just, plain and salty, tasting like water. So I like to leave it for a few weeks. This is my daughter's sauerkraut. She made it about a week earlier than today when I made mine. And I'm just removing the weight from the top, and you can see there's nothing, no mold on top, but I'm adding a little bit more water and salt so that it doesn't come in contact with the oxygen. There's a little floating piece of a small tiny cabbage. I'm removing it, and again, that's pretty much it. So you can use any kind of cabbage you like. You make sure that you use the right salt to water ratio or salt to cabbage ratio. You wash your lids after you open them. I just re-washed it because it was bubbling up, and then it got kind of blue in color with the rest of the juices that were coming out. I washed it, and then I just closed them right up, and that's pretty much it. Now I'm gonna move these jars again downstairs or in the refrigerator, and we're gonna enjoy them in about a few weeks. This is my other little jar, which I'm checking on, and again you can see that there's not enough liquid. I'm actually pressing, but I would like a little bit more because it evaporated with gas reaction, the fermentation process. So I like to add a little bit more water and salt brine. This is a rusty lid that I'm talking about. You cannot use this. You need to throw it out. And again, you make sure that you wipe the rim of your jars clean. It's blue because of the red cabbage. That's the kind of liquid you get on the side of the jars and on your lids. Just wipe it clean, and then you just cover it with a clean lid, and that's pretty much it. You put them away, and then we're gonna enjoy this with our dinners, our sandwiches. Guys, it's so easy to make. I hope you give it a try. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe, and make sure you check out my other ferments. And just remember, whenever you ferment, make sure you burp your jar every day for about 2 to 5 days, and that's it.